This is Histories and Mysteries. I'm your host, Ashley, and your other host is
Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about reincarnation stories, which I always find super fascinating and kind of creepy sometimes. uh, and I'm going to be talking about the history and the hauntings of Alcatraz.
Awesome. I'm excited about Alcatraz. I don't know a ton about it. Like, obviously, I know it's a prison.
Yeah.
I know Al Capone was there, but I don't really know much else or like why it's so super haunted. So I'm excited.
It is very fascinating. So, and there was like a lot of hauntings that I found. So,
Oh,
pretty
awesome.
exciting.
Yeah. So my reincarnation story is kind of like if you guys remember back to Jessica's Black Eyed Kids story, um, which still haunts me to this day.
Me
Um,
too.
I have a story. So at first I talk a little bit about reincarnation and then I have like stories from people. So um it's a pretty interesting. And they found actually what I focused on is a child psychiatrist who believes that um if a child dies from a very traumatic death, then they can potentially remember it in their next life, or a child or adult. Then the child in the next life can potentially remember it. And they've done like tons of studies and tons of statistics on it. So it's pretty interesting.
Cool.
So his name is Dr. Jim Tucker, and he spent more than a decade studying over 2,500 children from the ages of 2 to 6 for these like really odd reincarnation stories. And he said that 70% of the children that remember like a reincarnation story say that they died violent or unexpected deaths in their previous lives, and males account for 73% of those deaths, mirroring the statistics of those who die of unnatural causes in the general population, which may also show that traumatic deaths could be linked to remembering past lives.
Wow.
He also found that the ideal time between death and rebirth is around 16 months. So, like, if you died and then you're reborn within 16 months, then generally they can remember.
How are you supposed to like figure that statistic out?
Well, so what he does is crazy. So he interviews the kids and he listens to their stories and then he goes and like basically like fact checks them. And like finds this person that they're talking about and like how they died and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He said some children even had unusual birthmarks that matched their past lives' fatal wounds.
I've heard that.
That's so creepy.
Well, if that's my like me, then I died. Someone did something to my toe.
And it took you out.
Yeah, I got a little birthmark on the side of my toe.
I don't have any birthmarks, so I guess I didn't die.
Well, and I like, do you ever have like very like vivid dreams?
Yeah, my dreams have always been super vivid. They're always really weird, but yeah.
I have such vivid dreams, especially now that I'm pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, and even growing up, like a lot of them have revolved around like lots of violence
Oh, wow.
and like end of the world apocalypse stuff, and I always end up like dying very violently by
Oh,
somebody.
geez.
Yeah. So I'm like, huh.
I don't know
May-
that I think I've only ever, like, died in my dreams a couple times. My dreams are usually really weird, like, I'm on a boat and Peter Pan's there, and then all of a sudden I'm in a school classroom.
yeah, oh, that's funny. You're always a teacher.
I do have a lot of reoccurring nightmares from my teaching days of where I'm in a classroom, and no matter what I do, my students won't stop talking.
Oh, yeah, no, I've had such violent dreams, like
I wonder if you died a violent death and now you're reincarnated
maybe.
by your toe.
Maybe. But I'm always like hit in the stomach or something, or
Oh,
like
geez.
I had a really vivid dream once where I was like trapped in like the ruins of my grandparents' house and I was like a princess that had been like kept there, and then a bunch of people came and like rescued me, and then there was like a battle in my best friend's backyard where all of us were fighting and stuff, like medieval fighting. And then all of a sudden, like, someone was about to shoot an arrow at me, and then one of the guys that came and rescued me, he jumped in front of the arrow and got hit by it, and it was, like, so devastating to me in the dream, and I even woke up crying.
Oh,
Like, that was, like, probably, like, the most traumatic dream I've ever had.
I think
Like,
I remember having one dream where I woke up crying, and it was when I was younger. I was like maybe 12 or 13.
yeah, me too.
And I had a dream that I got pregnant, but it was like the Virgin Mary, and nobody would believe me, and so
Oh,
I woke up
no.
crying. It's that good old Catholic guilt right there.
Less traumatic, but still potent.
Oh,
So
goodness.
oh
So,
my goodness.
anyway, so I just copied then pasted this right out because it talks about, like, statistics, and I didn't wanna mess it up. So it says, Tucker has developed the Strength of Case Scale, the SOCS, and it looks at 4 aspects of potential cases of reincarnation. 1, whether it involves birthmarks/defects that correspond to the supposed previous life. 2, the strength of the statements about the previous life. 3, the relevant behaviors as they relate to the previous life. And 4, an evaluation of the possibility of a connection between the child reporting a previous life and the supposed previous life.
Okay.
Oh, and I should say that this is all from a Today article by Jake Whitman and Cynthia McFadden.
Perfect.
So critics have argued that there's no explanation for the survival of self, but Tucker suggests that quantum mechanics may offer a mechanism by which memories and emotions could carry over from one life to another. And apparently this like kind of matches the claims of quantum mysticism, which I've never heard of before.
Nope. Sounds like
Um,
some Doctor Strange shit.
Yeah, and it says those have been thoroughly discounted by actual researchers into the subject. But Tucker does believe that consciousness could continue to exist after the death of the brain and cites this motivation for his continued investigations. Which, I mean, if you think about it, if you believe in any type of religion or soul, it's your body may die, but your soul can live on. And I think that's kind of what he's alluding to.
Yeah.
So now I have some real creepy stories.
Super. Bring it on.
So this one is from Knucking Futz. Yep, Knucking Futz,
Oh,
73.
okay.
And I think this first one are from RFD.com. So when my brother was about 2 or 3, he told us his name used to be Austin. One day we were picnicking right alongside of the cemetery when my brother took off running towards the gravestones. My dad and I followed him and found him touching a headstone that simply read, "Here lies Austin." No name, no date. My brother did not learn to read until he was 6, and his headstone wasn't even visible for ours were. Yet he wasn't visible from where we were, yet he ran right to it.
Okay, there we go.
Hard to get that one out.
Yeah.
This next one is Mrs. Dr. C. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I told my parents that they weren't my first parents. I was little and have no memory of this, but my mom and dad both told me the story. I told them that I died in a tornado in 1976 and that I had been 16. I was a weird, too smart little kid that said really strange shit all of the time, so my parents just chalked it up to that. About 5 years ago, my mom called me. She reminded me of the story I had told her when I was little. She said it had started to bug her after all these years, so she Googled anything about tornado deaths in Michigan in 1976. There was exactly one that year. It was a 16-year-old girl who was riding in a car when it was thrown off the road by the tornado.
Oh,
I
wow.
looked it up too, and sure as hell she was right. I have no memory of telling the story and no memory of dying in a tornado, but my mom is pretty straight-laced and not one to believe in hokey bullcrap.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was crazy. This next one is from Roman Paul. It says, my 3-year-old said I was your mom in heaven multiple times. When I was 6 weeks pregnant with her, my mom died unexpectedly the day she found out the secret that I was pregnant at 40 with what would be her 21st grandchild.
Holy crap.
we
Holy crap.
we were going to surprise her on her 75th birthday 2 weeks later, but a niece let the secret out. When my girl was 4, we were looking through picture boxes. I have no family pictures posted in my house. Later that night, I realized my girl took 3 pictures of my mom and put them in her room. She's never seen pictures of my mom before. I asked her why she took those pictures, and she said, because I'm pretty. All right, the next one didn't have a
Username?
Yeah. James Liniger, a 4-year-old Louisiana boy who believed that he was once a World War II pilot who had been shot down over Iwo Jima.
Oh, yeah, I've heard this one.
Yeah. So Bruce and Andrea, I think it's Laniger, I don't know, first realized that James had these memories when he was 2 and woke up from a nightmare yelling, "Airplane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out." He also knew details about World War II aircraft that would seem impossible for a toddler to know. For instance, when Andrea referred to an object on the bottom of a toy plane as a bomb, James corrected her by saying it was a drop tank. I don't even know what a drop tank is.
I think it's just like in movies where the bombs just kind of fall out of the bottom.
Yeah.
I think that's basically what it is. It's just like a little chute.
Ah, that makes sense. But it does not make sense that a 4-year-old boy knows what that is.
No. No.
Another time, he and his parents were watching a History Channel documentary, and the narrator called a Japanese plane a Zero. James insisted that it was a Tony. In both cases, he was right.
Oh, jeez.
The boy said that he also had been named James in his previous life, and that he'd flown off a ship named Natoma. The Lenningers discovered a World War II aircraft carrier called the USS Natoma Bay. In its squadron was a pilot named James Houston, who had been killed in action over the Pacific.
Wow.
The next story is from Thought Catalog.
Ooh.
I was taking my 4-year-old, talking to my 4-year-old when she began to freak me out. She was telling me a story of her other mother and that she died a long time ago on a Thursday. I tried to brush it off, whatever, she's a kid. They have wild imaginations. But then she started to go further into detail about the death of her other mother, whose name was apparently Sally. She has never met anyone named Sally, and I can't recall any shows on TV where she watches a Sally character. She told me that she was playing with her father's gun that she found and accidentally shot and killed Sally while she was walking upstairs.
Holy crap.
It's pretty weird. There are no guns in this house. I haven't even really told her what guns are all about and how they can hurt or kill someone. She's only 4. I think I'm beginning to understand now why when I tried telling her when someone dies they go away forever, she tells me that's not true. We come back, mommy.
Creepy.
Yeah. I just have a couple more. A 3-year-old boy in the Golan Heights region near the border of Syria and Israel said he was murdered with an axe in his previous life. He even showed the village elders where his murdered body was, and sure enough, they found a man's skeleton there. He also showed the elders where the murder weapon was found, and upon digging, they did indeed find an axe.
Ugh. But like,
Um,
how would you know that if you've been dead? You know, like how would you know where your murderer hid the murder
Murder
weapon,
weapon. That's a great
or
point,
where your
Jessica.
body is buried?
That's a great point. I mean, unless he was killed like right there, and he knows that's
Yeah.
where his body. But the murder weapon, I don't know.
Right? Isn't that weird?
Jessica, don't poke holes in the story.
Sorry, I have like a weird brain. I need like facts. I need answers.
This next one is my mother told me about a story I told her when I was 2 or 3. I told her she was the best mommy I ever had, to which she replied, "I'm the only mommy you've ever had." And I said, "Nuh-uh, I had another mommy." I said that my older sister and I went out to a pond in the woods behind my house. Around the pond, all the trees were the same type, skinny with white paper-like bark. I had never seen a poplar tree before in this life. We put some logs together to make a raft and put it into the water to play boat captain and climbed aboard. The raft fell apart and I don't know how to swim. I tried to grab a log, but my hand slipped off. I could see my sister freaking out from underwater and I drowned.
Oh.
Yeah. And then this one is really short, but I just thought it was really cool. And I think you'll appreciate this one.
All right, perfect.
When my kid was 4, we were watching a documentary on the Titanic. The scene was a picture of the schematics of the boiler room, and the camera panned from left to right over the plans. He pointed at the TV and said, "That's wrong. The boilers were on the other side, and I was right here," and pointed to a small space in the boiler room. "That's where I was, and that's why I don't like water now."
Oh, gross.
Yeah. So those it was a short one, but those were the stories I had on reincarnation.
Fun.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the story of that lady who I think she was like an ancient Egyptian, like she's from ancient Egypt and she became like an Egyptologist or something, and she knew stuff that like people had been trying to figure out for years, but she knew it because she was from ancient Egypt. And
Are you talking about a character from The Mummy, Jessica? No, I'm just kidding.
no, no. Let me see if I can find it. Dorothy Eady is
Huh.
her name. Um, it described the life of a young woman in ancient Egypt called Bentricious, I don't know, who had reincarnated in the person of Dorothy Eady, a British woman whose life was lined by reincarnation.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, she was an Egyptian priestess. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her name is Dorothy Eady, and she like knew a bunch of crazy stuff. Yeah, she was really cool. It was just crazy the stuff that she knew.
Mhm.
So, but
I
yeah,
wish I could remember like a past life. That'd be so cool.
me too. That would be nice. Like, like I said, I think I've just had like a very violent past based off of my dreams.
I feel like I was probably just like a really privileged white European person because I don't remember anything.
Yeah, well, my origins are in like Scotland and England and stuff, and like I've had a lot of violent fighting dreams, so I feel like I was like medieval times.
I am. I do have Viking in me.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably a pretty violent life, but
Yeah. Have you played? Oh, okay. Have you managed to get the PS5 yet?
no, Jessica, they're still sold out everywhere.
Well, we were able to get one when they first came out, and we have the Assassin's Creed Valhalla game,
Oh
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a Viking game, and
Uh-huh.
it's so much fun to play.
Cody's playing that right now on the PS4.
Yeah, it's so much fun to play.
It's pretty. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it's very fun because you can just go release some tension and just kill a bunch
I
of
just
people.
don't like it when he kills the forest animals. Like, ugh, leave them alone.
I don't have the patience for killing the animals. I
I
just go
can't
on
play because
campaigns.
I can't do the two joysticks. I've never been able to do it. I can't like turn my head and walk at the same time. I always end up like walking into walls and stuff. I just can't do
That's so funny.
it.
Okay. So it is my turn, right?
Yay, Alcatraz.
Yes. So I'm going to be talking about good old Alcatraz. I used history.com,
Mhm.
all that's interesting, and I used Legends of America
Ooh.
as my sources. So I'm going to start by talking about the history of Alcatraz just to
Okay.
get some lay work in there. It is a federal prison located on Alcatraz Island in the San Francisco Bay. It was originally a military prison from the late 1850s until 1933. It was in operation from, like, the prison was in operation from 1934 until 1963, and it housed some of the most dangerous criminals.
Question for you.
Yeah.
And you may cover this. And I guess my question is, do you cover this? Why they stopped using the prison?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Two of its residents were Al Scarface Capone. I don't know, I'm using air quotes so people can't see me.
I
And
saw 'em.
perfect. It's all that matters. And Robert Birdman of Alcatraz Stroud.
Oh,
Yes, I'll go a little bit. I think I go a bit more into both of them later.
gotcha.
The island was first discovered in 1755 by a Spanish explorer, and he named it La Isla de los Alcatrazes.
Ooh, and he looked at it and said, "This is a perfect island for a prison."
Yeah. But so the translation of that is Island of the Pelicans.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, so there's a lot of birds on that island when they first got there. In 1850, President Millard Fillmore.
What?
Millard Fillmore?
Oh, it's probably Millard, but I've never heard of that president, but, I mean
I literally put in brackets, I'm like, I did not know this man existed.
how long was he president for?
I don't know, it was in 1850.
I was literally just looking at for my phone, and it's, like, right in front of my face.
Millard
What's his name?
Fillmore.
Millard
13th,
Fillmore.
he's the 13th US president,
Oh,
and
that was his life. He was president for 3 years. He was a member of the Whig Party.
yeah,
He was not a handsome man.
no. How is he only president for 3 years? I thought that you had to, like, that you were president for 4 years.
You are,
Because he didn't die until 1874, and he
I'd say either something happened. Well, we've only ever had one president that was impeached and removed from office, so it couldn't be that. Back then it was different too, because like Washington was president for a couple. I can't remember when they put the 4-year term on the presidency.
well,
When did
because I think Washington was president for 8 years. You're all getting a good old history lesson here. Yeah, so Washington was
1947.
1947.
Yeah, is when they put the you can only run twice for a total of 8 years. So
Yeah,
before
because
that, I guess it was just like a free for all.
Washington was president from 1789 until 1797. So that was 8 years, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he stepped down.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and said like somebody else needs to rule too. It can't just be like I can't be king.
Yeah. Well, according to the musical Hamilton, that's all I know.
And that's 100% historically accurate.
Yeah. It is okay. Learned a
uh,
lot from that musical.
it's a mystery we'll never know.
Well, I mean, we gave the people a history lesson, so.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That didn't really amount to anything because we can figure it
Well,
out.
it was so fascinating. All right, so in 1850, President Millard Fillmore reserved the island for military use only.
Hmm.
Then in 1850s, a fortress was constructed with around 100 cannons placed around the island to protect the bay, like the San Francisco Bay. It also housed the West Coast's first lighthouse, like
Ooh.
first operational lighthouse, I guess.
Huh?
Um, soon they began housing military prisoners as it was very isolated from the mainland due to the cold San Francisco Bay. And it was assumed no one would escape by swimming away from the island, and if they did, they wouldn't survive.
All right.
Which isn't true because apparently there's like a swim every year where people make the swim across.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Like nowadays. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The military prisoners were Confederate sympathizers and those accused of treason during the Civil War. Okay. I warned you about this. So, my knowledge on American history actually isn't the best, obviously,
Oh,
because I'm not
shoot. This is where
American.
you warned me.
Yep.
You make me
S
look dumb.
no, I think this is a very easy question.
Okay.
Who were the Confederates and who were the Unions and why were they fighting and who won?
Oh, yeah, that is easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Confederates were the South, the Union was the North. They were fighting over basically slavery. The South wanted slaves. The North said, no, we're going to free the slaves. I mean, there was a lot more to it, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's like the main thing. And the North won.
So the Unions won?
Yes, the Union won.
Okay, so
So
this
they
is where they're
abolished slavery.
Okay, so this is where they were housing like the Confederates and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Abraham Lincoln was the president at the time, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know a little bit.
Oh, that makes me feel good. I thought you were going to ask me like specific questions that I wasn't going to know and look real
No,
stupid.
I told you it was like super easy. I just didn't want to be the one to fuck it up.
Yeah, I mean, there was, like, a lot more politics into the war, but,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I knew that, like,
the
I
main thing
knew
was slavery.
I knew that slavery was abolished, but, like, I
Yeah.
just didn't know if it was the Confederate or the Union, so
The Union, go Union,
cool.
woo!
So, yeah, the Confederates were housed at Alcatraz
'Kay.
while it was a military prison. It also unfortunately housed some American Indians,
Oh.
and they were sent there in 1895 due to land disagreements with the federal government.
Oh, not our proudest moment.
No. The population at this prison also grew and grew and grew during the Spanish American War.
Okay.
In the early 20th century, manual labor by the inmates at Alcatraz allowed for the construction of a 600 cell structure, which is still there today.
Hmm,
A hospital, a mess hall, and other prison buildings as well were built by these inmates.
okay.
When the structure was completed in 1912, it was the world's largest reinforced concrete building. The world's largest.
Ooh,
Yeah, which is very cool, I think.
yeah.
By 1933, the military gave up Alcatraz as their military prison and handed it over to the U.S. Justice Department so that they could have a federal prison which housed very dangerous criminals that were too bad to be dealt with by other penitentiaries.
Oh,
They spent the year making the prison more secure for their new crowd, and then they officially opened on July 1st. I put 2934. I think I meant 1934.
it hasn't opened yet, we still got about another 900 years.
Yeah. So, Canada Day, 1934.
Got it.
When they first opened, there was one guard hired for every three prisoners, and every prisoner had their own cell, which I think is very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. People were sent there so that they could learn how to follow the rules since they had very little privileges at this prison. Eventually, they were getting better. They could be oh gosh, I missed a word. Eventually, if they were getting better, they prisoners could be transferred to other prisons in order to finish out their sentences.
Okay.
Alcatraz held about 260 to 275 prisoners. It also had a snitch box where
Ooh.
inmates could write notes snitching on other inmates in order to receive favors from like the guards or the warden or whatever.
Ooh, I don't know, man, bitches get or snitches get stitches.
Bitches get stitches.
Bitches get stitches.
Yes, it wasn't just me this time.
Well, that's like my, George Ramirez from the other episode.
Yeah. Oh, that was funny. Uh, they also had a jail band, and they would have
Ooh,
yeah, and they would have regular concerts for the other inmates on Sundays,
cute.
and Al Capone played the banjo.
Ooh, look at little Al.
I know. So talented. While in prison, the inmates learned trades and skills, so upon their release, they had some work experience, which is
Nice.
nice rather than
Yeah,
wasting your time.
right.
Some people actually requested to be transferred to Alcatraz from their other prisons, mostly due to the fact that the warden prided himself on providing the best food and allowing the inmates to go back for seconds. And if they behaved, they had privileges like movies and they had a library, so people found the environment to be more favorable than other
Yeah,
jails.
sounds like a pretty nice prison.
I know, right? Even though it's like a very strict prison, it also sounds fairly nice.
Yeah.
Despite these favorable conditions, there was the D block that there was the D block that existed, and it was far from a lovely time.
Uh-oh.
It was known as the quotations treatment unit.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, and it had 42 cells that had varying degrees of restrictions in place.
Okay.
So those that were situated in D block had no contact with anyone outside of it. They were not allowed to go to work or the mess hall, and all meals were served to them. They could have one visit to the yard a week and only 2 showers.
Ugh.
They could only read material that was approved as well, so like they couldn't have their own books or anything. Their cells faced the Golden Gate Bridge, and so cold winds often blew through. And one of the guards that worked the block turned on the air conditioning to make the conditions even more unbearable.
That's so crazy how, like, the rest of the prison was, like, pretty decent, and then, like, D Block was hell.
Yeah. Literal hell, because it was also like lowered down,
Oh,
like on the lowest level.
gosh.
So literal hell. 5 out of the 6 remaining cells were commonly referred to as the hole.
Ooh.
These cells were on the lowest level, which meant it was much colder, and they only contained a sink, toilet, and a very low light bulb, which could be turned off by the guards at any time. Their mattresses were taken from them during the day, and they weren't allowed to shower, and they couldn't have any reading material either.
Ugh.
The longest you could be sent to the hole for was 19 days,
I'd go in, so
which,
what do you do if you can't even read? Like, you just stare at a wall?
yeah, people like probably just went insane, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, but 19 days just seems like a random number.
Yeah, that is really weird. Like, why not just make it 15 or 20? Like, round
Yeah,
it there, people.
exactly. It's so stupid. Um, these cells are meant for the biggest offender of prison rules. And the 6th cell and the final cell was called the Oriental.
Oh, jeez.
It was the most intense type of punishment that could be dealt out to the prisoners. They were left in the dark with no sink or toilet, only a hole in the ground in which to relieve themselves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They were also naked in this cell and had a restricted diet and were in the cold and the dark.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Their mattress was removed every morning and returned only at nighttime. So, I mean, at least they got a mattress to sleep on.
Yeah.
Prisoners would only be subjected to this form of punishment for 1 to 2 days, which I
Okay.
mean isn't super long, which is nice.
Yeah.
And that's it for the D block. Now, as mentioned previously, Al Capone served 4.5 years at Alcatraz, and he was even stabbed during his stay, but he did survive.
Oh.
He was sent to Alcatraz due to the fact that while incarcerated in Georgia, it had allowed him to remain in contact with the outside world. Therefore, he was able to continue running his criminal organization in Chicago,
Yeah.
which kind of defeats the purpose of being in jail.
Yeah, like, I feel like I saw a picture of his jail cell, and I'm not sure if it was in the Georgia prison or in Alcatraz, but it was, like, freaking
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
nice, yeah, like a desk and shit, and like
Was that in Alcatraz or was that in Georgia?
I think it was in Georgia, because
Okay.
I think it was at the same prison that like one of the lady criminals was at. Like,
Okay. And it doesn't seem like Alcatraz would, like, fuck around with that.
no, exactly. So I think it was elsewhere. So Al Capone was also able to corrupt prison officers at that Chicago or at that, yeah, Chicago jail? No, Georgia jail. So he was able to corrupt the prisoner officers there, so that's not good.
Yeah.
So he was sent to Alcatraz. And apparently he told the warden of Alcatraz, quote, "It looks like Alcatraz has got me licked."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so apparently it worked.
Yeah.
George Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, he's a rapper.
Is he?
Well, Machine Gun Kelly is.
Oh. He served 17 years at Alcatraz on a kidnapping charge. A gangster by the name of Alvin Creepy Carpus Karpowitz was public enemy number one by the FBI and served over 25 years at Alcatraz.
Wow.
There was also Robert Stroud, as mentioned earlier, the Birdman of Alcatraz. He was called the Birdman because he was a self taught ornithologist, which is an expert on birds. And at his previous penitentiary, he was allowed to keep birds, and he was not at Alcatraz.
Oh.
And they're like, no. He has spent 17 years at Alcatraz, and he had previously served 30 years at his previous penitentiary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Over the years that Alcatraz was a prison, there were 14 known attempts of escape. 23 people were captured, 6 were shot and killed, 2 drowned, and 5 went missing and were presumed to have drowned.
Gotcha.
One of these escape attempts was potentially successful, though. The individuals crafted decoy heads to put in their beds with hair that they obtained from the barber.
Ugh.
They chipped away at the walls with spoons, and their possessions were found floating in the bay, but their bodies were never recovered. So they
Oh.
thought that they drowned, but I mean, no bodies were found, so
Yeah.
could have been successful. One of these escape attempts resulted in a riot over the course of 2 days in 1946.
Wow.
6 prisoners were able to overpower some officers and gain access to weapons, but not the keys to actually leave the prison.
Oh, okay.
'Cause, I mean, why would you want the keys?
Why would you want that?
2 correctional officers were killed and 18 people were injured in this little battle of theirs.
Wow.
3 of these inmates died as a result of the U.S. Marines being called in, and the remaining 3 men were sentenced to death.
Oh, wow.
And in 1963, Alcatraz closed its doors as a federal penitentiary due to expenses. It
Oh,
cost more to operate than other prisons due to the island's location.
okay.
So, like, it cost more to ship food and supplies to the jail. And the
Mhm.
salty air from the San Francisco Bay was also making the buildings crumble.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it was taken over by the Golden Gate National Recreation Area in 1972 and then opened to the public for tours.
Hmm.
So,
That'd be a cool place to tour, I think.
yeah, I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
I think it would be so fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
So, maybe one day. We want to go to a bunch of like ghosty places and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like my husband and I, cuz like every year on our anniversary except for this year because of stupid COVID.
COVID ruins everything.
We do like a haunted walk or like a little
Uh-huh.
paranormal investigation or whatever. So it was open this year and we could have gone, but he was also worried that for some reason it was going to scare me and I was going to go into preterm labor. And I'm like, love, I love you, but I don't think I'm going to get that scared.
On a haunted walk.
Oh my goodness. Well, I did like it was so funny because like last year was that like ghost investigation. I think I've talked to you about it before.
Uh-huh.
And like there was like a couple jump scares. But I'm like, I don't think that's gonna really do anything for me. But he was just
Yeah.
being adorable and protective and I love it. But
Yeah.
so we just decided this year like we weren't gonna do it, especially because of COVID and like it
Yeah.
was in Toronto, which was a pretty high risk area. So
Yeah.
understandable, but I was still heartbroken.
Sure.
So we basically just want to like find all these ghosty places and go. But
Cute.
yeah, we'll see what happens. So now I'm going to talk about the ghosts, ironically. So sometimes Alcatraz has been described as a portal to another dimension.
Ooh.
I literally wrote that in my notes. Ooh.
Ooh.
Screams, whistles, voices, and clanging of metal can be heard.
Okay.
Some of the guards who worked there reported hearing sobbing, moaning, and horrible smells.
Ew.
They also reported what they called, in quotes, the thing, which was an entity with glowing eyes.
Ew.
Yes.
I'm
They-
thinking that those horrible smells could have been from that hole in
that's what I was
the
thinking.
sticks. So, like, whatever.
That's exactly what I was thinking. They also reported seeing ghost prisoners and soldiers appear in front of them.
Oh.
One of the wardens, who was not a believer of the supernatural, even reported hearing sobs coming from a woman from inside the dungeon walls while giving a tour. And as soon as her sobbing stopped, a cold breeze went through the group.
Was there any women in Alcatraz?
Like when it was a military prison, I'm sure that they kept a bunch of people there, right?
Yeah.
Like during the different wars and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and it could have been like someone that was visiting a family
True.
member or whatever. And
Okay. Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
An apparition of a man wearing a gray suit, brimmed hat, and donning some lovely mutton chops appeared before some guards one day. While still open, cannon and gunshots could be heard by the guards, accompanied by screams. And thinking that some prisoners had gained access to weapons, some seasoned guards would go and check the incident out, only to find absolutely nothing out of the ordinary.
Ooh.
There would also be the smell of strong smoke coming from an old laundry room, accompanied by a thick smoke that would dissipate minutes later. So they'd like
Creepy.
run to the laundry room, being like, "Oh no, shit's on fire!" And then they got there, and
Nothing's there.
like everything's smiling. But there'd be that thick smoke, and then it would just go away randomly.
Ugh.
Yeah. A guard from the 1940s witnessed a ghost of a man dressed in late 1800s prison attire walking along the cells of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a prisoner locked in the hole once started screaming because there was an entity with glowing eyes in the cell with him.
Oh.
Yeah, the guards thought it was just a joke, so they ignored the prisoner's cries for help.
Oh no.
And when they checked on him in the morning, he was found dead. And he had a horrible expression on his face, and there were handprints around his neck that were not self-inflicted.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yes. That would be terrifying. There was a theory that a guard was the one that strangled the inmate, not able to take his screaming any longer,
Oh.
but it was never proved, of course.
Of course.
When the inmates were called to line up the next day, there is one too many, and so it was the recently deceased victim in their midst. Everybody would look on with shock until the figure vanished.
Oh
So they were all
gosh.
like everybody saw this, and then
Wow.
he just vanished, and they're like, "The fuck?"
Yeah.
Cells 12 and 14D are said to be the most active. So 14D is often 20 degrees colder, and psychics
Ooh.
have felt very strong emotions in the corners of these cells. Some
Ooh.
rangers refuse to go into them alone.
Oh wow.
Oftentimes, psychics will feel tingling sensations in their hands and arms when they're in these cells.
Ew.
One psychic described seeing a small man in 14D who stated he had his legs broken by guards and then left in solitary confinement.
Oh.
When a renowned ghost hunter stayed in 12D, he experienced icy hands wrap around his throat and he saw visions of bodies twisted and dismembered men.
Ew.
Yeah, would not want to visualize that. Oh,
No, not at all.
excuse me, I just burped. Um, in cell block C, where the three inmates were killed, people believed it to be haunted. Clanging is heard and it stops once the door is opened, resuming once the door is closed again.
Ooh.
Apparitions of men are often seen here, along with disembodied voices. Uh, the laundry room is also haunted, confirmed by a celebrity psychic.
Ooh.
Yeah. She immediately encountered this unseen presence when she entered the room, and an ex-convict that was present with her indicated he remembered the man by the name of Butcher, who was killed by another inmate in the laundry room.
Ooh.
Voices are also heard in the hospital wards and the mess hall. Park service staff recollect often hearing unexplainable crashing sounds, running footsteps, unearthly screams, cell doors that mysteriously closed of their own accord, moans, chains rattling, and the constant feeling of being watched.
Ooh.
So I found a reader story to cap it all off.
Ooh, okay.
So it was from August 2012.
Okay.
Myself, my daughter, and her college friend toured Alcatraz in July. The attached photo, which I'll post when we do the episode,
Okay.
was taken with a phone camera from my daughter's friend. She refused to keep it on her phone. If you look closely, there is a woman sitting in the driver's seat of the truck. When this picture was taken, there is no one in that truck. I know because I love classic cars and trucks and was waiting for my turn to take a photo. I was off to the rear left of the truck. There was a mother and daughter off directly to the left of the truck, and my daughter had gone ahead. The truck was a display, and I believe it belonged to one of the wardens. Can you tell me, did you ever hear of there being any female ghosts on Alcatraz? This photo shook me, my daughter, and her friend pretty bad. So basically, it's just of this lady sitting in the back seat of the truck, and I think it's fake. The lady looks too modern.
Oh, yeah, that looks real fake. That looks like a
Yeah.
grandma that's visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks super fake.
It actually looks a lot like my grandma.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that definitely looks just like a tourist lady sitting in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, whatever, people.
She's even got, like, a modern shirt and jacket on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Got
like,
a modern haircut for an old lady.
yeah, exactly. And the jail closed back in the 19 whatever, right?
Yeah, and I don't think she'd have short hair back then, right? Like, they didn't really.
They did. It was like in the 70s,
Oh, okay. Okay, okay,
60s,
okay, okay.
70s, right? So,
Okay. Yeah, 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 you're right. I was thinking, like, way back further. I don't know why.
yeah. Anyways, so that is my story on Alcatraz.
Ooh, I loved it.
Good.
Spooky. Yeah.
That was crazy, right?
Yeah. Well, if you liked our spooky stories and you want more of us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Histories and Mysteries, or you can email us at historiesandmysteries515@gmail.com.
And if you want to, you can rate us and review us because
Yeah.
that would be really, really helpful for us because we're trying to grow our brand and reach
Ooh,
out to so many people, and we can't do that without some help. So,
we sound so professional. Grow our brand. So we look forward to bringing you two new stories next week.
bye, everybody.